Imagine walking onto the world's biggest stage with millions of eyes waiting to judge you, and you're only 12 years old. Imagine trying to honor the legacy of Michael Jackson, a legend whose moves and style are nearly impossible to match. Imagine Simon Cowell staring right at you, arms folded, expecting perfection. And then imagine the entire crowd rising to their feet within seconds, cheering as if they already know something magical is about to happen. What this young Filipino boy did that night didn't just honor Michael Jackson, he revived him, electrified the judges, and made Simon Cowell do something he rarely does. Tonight, you'll see the moment a shy kid turned into a superstar and walked away with the golden buzzer that shook America's Got Talent. This is one story you will never forget. Let's begin. Welcome back to the channel where we bring you the most emotional talent stories from around the world, stories that touch your heart, inspire your soul, and remind you how powerful dreams can be. If you love performances that bring goosebumps, moments that bring tears, and journeys that prove talent has no age, then you are in the right place. So sit back, relax, and get ready for a story that proves greatness can come from the smallest places and the youngest hearts. He grew up in one of the busiest corners of the Philippines, a small neighborhood where narrow streets echoed with children's laughter, motorbike engines, and everyday life. A place where dreams were big, resources were small, and families worked hard just to keep things running. In that neighborhood lived a boy named Lien, a quiet 12-year-old who spoke softly, smiled shyly, and held a secret that very few people around him truly understood. His world was small, but his imagination was big. And at the center of it all was one name, Michael Jackson. While most children spent evenings playing games or hanging out with friends, Lien spent his time in front of a small TV or a cracked phone screen, studying every move Michael Jackson ever made. He replayed each step again and again, the moonwalk that looked impossible, the dramatic spins, the sharp footwork, the finger snaps, the iconic poses. He watched concerts, interviews, behind-the-scenes clips, fan recordings, anything he could find. He didn't have a dance teacher, didn't attend workshops, didn't have a studio with mirrors. His teacher was the king of pop himself, and his studio was a tiny room with peeling paint, cement floor, and a dream so powerful it lit up the whole space. His mother often peeked through the half-open door to find him practicing moves late into the night. Sometimes he tripped, sometimes he fell, sometimes he grew frustrated. But he always got back up. There was a fire inside him that no one could put out, a belief that someday he would dance on a stage where the world would see him, hear him, and maybe, just maybe, believe in him the way he believed in Michael Jackson. But even though he practiced every day, Lien never performed in front of strangers. He didn't join school competitions. He didn't dance in public events. He didn't post online videos. He kept everything inside, holding his dream tightly like something too delicate to expose to the world. Until one evening when everything changed. America's Got Talent announced open auditions, and when his mom heard, something inside her pushed her to take a chance. She knew how much her son loved to dance. She knew how hard he worked. She knew the world needed to see him the way she saw him. But Lien refused at first. He was afraid of being laughed at, afraid of messing up, afraid of disappointing the people he admired. His mother listened quietly, then placed her hands on his shoulders and said something he never forgot, "If God gave you a gift, hiding it is the only way to waste it." Those words settled deep in his heart. 2 days later, they packed a small bag, borrowed money for travel, and began a journey that felt unreal. When they finally arrived at the AGT venue, everything seemed too big, too bright, too overwhelming. Cameras, lights, crowds, performers rehearsing loudly, he felt like a tiny grain of sand in an ocean of stars. But his mother squeezed his hand every time fear crept in, whispering that he had earned his place there. Backstage, he saw jugglers, singers, magicians, and dancers warming up with perfect confidence. Meanwhile, he stood silently in his oversized jacket and worn-out shoes, holding a small glove he had made himself, white, sparkling, and inspired by Michael Jackson's most iconic accessory. He put it on his right hand, took a deep breath, and closed his eyes. And it was in that moment, surrounded by noise and chaos, that he felt it, the same spark he felt every time he practiced in his little room in the Philippines. Soon, a staff member leaned toward him and said, "You're next." Those 2 words hit him like a lightning bolt. He followed the assistant onto the stage, the bright lights blurring his vision for a moment. The theater was massive. 3 levels of audience seating towered above him. The judges' table glowed under spotlights. And behind it sat Howie Mandel, Heidi Klum, Sofia Vergara, and the man who frightened him the most, Simon Cowell. He stood in the middle of the stage, shaking slightly but refusing to step back. Simon leaned forward. "Hello, what's your name?" His voice trembled. "My name is Lien. I'm 12 years old, from the Philippines." The crowd let out a soft cheer. Simon continued, "And what are you going to do for us today?" "I will dance, and try to honor Michael Jackson," Lien replied softly. The moment he said the words Michael Jackson, Simon's eyebrows lifted in interest. The audience murmured with excitement. Everyone knew that performing Michael Jackson was one of the riskiest things a contestant could attempt. One wrong move, one off timing, one weak moment, and the performance collapses. Simon folded his arms, leaned back, and nodded. "All right then, show us what you've got." The lights dimmed, fog curled around Lien's feet. The opening beat of Billie Jean echoed through the theater, and suddenly something changed in him. The shy boy transformed instantly. His posture straightened, his head tilted forward in the signature MJ pose. His feet slid into position with perfect precision. The crowd gasped. He snapped his fingers in perfect rhythm. Then he executed the first glide, smooth as water. The audience erupted. Camera lights flashed. Judges leaned forward. He spun. He popped. He locked. Every movement was sharp, clean, and full of confidence. He carried Michael's essence without copying him entirely. He added his own flavor, his own youthful vibrance, and his own heart. He was not trying to be Michael Jackson. He was honoring him, channeling him, celebrating him. Then came the moment that changed everything. The music slowed, the spotlight narrowed, and Lien prepared for the moonwalk. There was silence in the entire auditorium, as if every single person held their breath. Then he moved. His feet glided backward like they were floating. Every slide was effortless, every direction changed perfect. People jumped to their feet screaming. Some waved their hands in the air. Others covered their mouths in disbelief. And Simon Cowell, one of the toughest judges in the world, sat forward with a look no one expected, awe. But Lien wasn't done. He leaned into a gravity-defying forward tilt that made everyone gasp. Then he kicked into a spin so fast and so controlled that the entire stage seemed to rotate with him. When he stopped, he froze in the iconic MJ pose, head tilted, leg bent, arm pointed to the sky. Silence. Then, the crowd exploded, screaming, cheering, clapping, whistling, everyone was on their feet. Judges rose with them. The theater shook with applause. Cameras zoomed in on Lien's face, capturing the moment tears welled up in his eyes. He had done it. For the first time in his life, he wasn't just the boy practicing alone in a tiny room. He was a star. Simon leaned toward his microphone and said something that made the audience quiet instantly. "Lien, that wasn't just good. That was unbelievable. I've seen many Michael Jackson performances on this stage, but what you just did tonight, it felt alive. You brought back the energy we all miss. And you're only 12. Lien covered his face, overwhelmed. Simon continued, "You didn't just copy Michael Jackson. You captured his spirit while staying true to yourself. That is what makes a great artist. And I want to make sure the world sees this." Then Simon stood up. The crowd screamed louder. Lien's mother, watching from backstage, burst into tears. Simon walked around the judges' table, heading straight toward the golden buzzer. Everyone knew what was coming, but that didn't make it any less magical. Simon raised his hand. Lien shook his head in disbelief, his hands trembling. Simon slammed the golden buzzer. The entire theater exploded in gold. Confetti rained from above in glittering showers. Lien dropped to his knees, crying uncontrollably. The judges clapped. The audience screamed. His mother ran onto the stage and wrapped him in the tightest embrace. Gold sparkled all around them, turning the moment into something straight out of a dream. Simon walked onto the stage and bent down to talk to him. "You deserve this," he said softly. "Your talent is extraordinary. You're going straight to the live shows." Lien couldn't speak. He could only nod as tears streamed down his face. Backstage, as crews cleaned up the confetti and reset the stage, Lien sat in a quiet corner with his mother, still in shock. He replayed everything in his mind. The stage, the lights, the applause, Simon hitting the golden buzzer. His mother wiped his tears and said, "This is just the beginning." And she was right. Within hours, clips of his performance flooded social media. People all over the world shared his moonwalk, his gravity tilt, his breathtaking spin. Fans posted reactions, dancers recreated his moves, and supporters from the Philippines sent messages of love and pride. He became an overnight sensation. But more than fame, he gained something far more meaningful: belief in himself. He realized that the world was not as scary as he once thought. That his talent was not something to hide but something to share. That sometimes, stepping onto the stage is the first step toward discovering who you're meant to be. He trained even harder after that night, preparing for the live shows with new routines, new energy, and new confidence. He knew that millions would be watching. He knew the pressure was bigger. But he also knew that if he could impress Simon once, he could do it again. He understood something that Michael Jackson himself lived by. Greatness isn't measured by how others see you, but by how deeply you love your art. And he loved dancing more than anything. His golden buzzer moment became one of the most emotional highlights of the season. Viewers called him one of the best young dancers AGT had ever seen. Even Simon tweeted about him, calling him a future superstar. But for Leanne, the greatest reward wasn't the fame, the attention, or even the golden buzzer. It was walking off that stage knowing he had honored the man who inspired him since childhood and proved that dreams, no matter how small they begin, can grow into something extraordinary when you refuse to give up. His story spread around the world not just as a performance, but as a message: talent has no age limit, dreams have no borders, and courage begins the moment you step onto the stage of your own destiny. He became a symbol of Filipino pride, a reminder that brilliance exists everywhere, especially in places where children grow up believing they have to stay invisible. He became a reminder to parents that supporting a child's dream can change their entire life. And he became a reminder to the world that Michael Jackson's legacy lives on, not just through music, but through the hearts of young performers who carry his inspiration into the future. Leanne continued his journey, building every performance on the foundation of hard work, passion, and gratitude. And whether he wins the whole competition or not, he already accomplished something extraordinary. He turned a dream born in a tiny room into a moment that touched millions. The stage that once terrified him now belongs to him. The boy who once feared being seen is now watched by the world. The child who once practiced alone now has international fans cheering for him. And the kid who idolized Michael Jackson now shares a chapter of his own legacy. Some stories are about talent. Some are about courage. Leanne's story is about both, and the world will remember the night a 12-year-old Filipino boy revived the magic of Michael Jackson and made Simon Cowell slam the golden buzzer with pride. Thank you for watching this emotional journey. If you believe this young superstar deserves a place in the finals, if his performance moved you, and if you want to see more stories of talented dreamers rising against all odds, stay tuned. The next inspiring story might be the one that changes your heart.